Hi, I'm Jensen Walker, and you're listening to the Darts World Weekly Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode 13 of the Darts World Weekly Podcast. I am AJ Omston-Toft.
And I am Harry Masterson.
And how are we doing today?
I'm very good, thank you, AJ. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. As always, it is a busy week of dart in action. It's a very busy week for the PDC with obviously the Premier League, and then we've got the Ladies Series, and we've got the Euros as well. So it's just all go, and then obviously there's tournaments in the WDF happening at the moment, and just darts everywhere.
Exactly. There's never any respite for us. There's always the Euro Tours have been on constantly every single week now. The Pro Tour is going to come back as well at some point, and the Premier League is week on week.
Yes, it's we're getting into the nitty gritty now of the Premier League, and I think that is a fantastic place to start. So the Premier League bandwagon rolled into Rotterdam at the Ahoy Centre, and again, a fantastic week of darts there.
Absolutely. Nathan Aspinall now third in the Premier League, and this playoff race has taken another turn. I think we saw at the back end of the week in Birmingham when Nathan Aspinall lost to Michael van Gerwen, we knew he needed to have a fight back this week, and by God, he did produce that fight back. Now third in the league, and you've got Michael Smith, Michael van Gerwen, and Nathan Aspinall still in a race for two playoff positions.
Yes, by jingo, it is coming into its own now, and we're coming, as we said, into the meat of the tournament. And with next week going into Liverpool, not going too far already, it's looking to be nail-biting set of fixtures, which are beneficial for some and tougher for others.
Absolutely. I feel like we're going to get this now in terms of the games that are coming up with the remaining weeks. Like Peter Wright's still got a night in, I believe, Aberdeen that he's got. So whoever's got to play him on that night it's not going to be easy. And then Luke Humphreys, who's already qualified, he may have already qualified. I mean, he may not have. I'm not going to say anything yet, but he's gone back to the top of the table, and whoever's got to face him in Leeds, because obviously we all know Luke Humphreys' Leeds fan. He went to Ellen Road and paraded the trophy, so he can have a lot of support behind him on that night. So
yeah, I mean,
still plenty of fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the league table, I mean, as you say, Luke Humphreys and Luke Littler on level points now on 26, with Nathan Aspinall's win last week moving him up to 23, Michael van Gerwen 22, and then Michael Smith 20. As you say, you've got three players there, battling it out for them two remaining spots, and Gerwin Price up to 6, Rob Cross down to 11, for then Peter Wright at the bottom with 4. But it's as you say, now we're getting into the meat of the tournaments and the meat of the Premier League itself. It's coming into as we say, really tense week of darts. Now, in terms of the quality, in terms of averages, there's been a slight drop. I mean, we was talking about being in the hundreds consistently, and now we're into 95s ish, which is nothing. It's one missed dart at a double, per leg on average. But I just think as the tension rises, I think the quality is going to be still high, but I don't think it's going to be as high as, say, earlier in the Premier League.
With the league now getting to the later stages, I feel that there's going to be a bit more nerves on the stage. It's going to start actually, the game's going to start meaning a lot more for the players. And
I was just about to say.
Yeah, I remember watching a game between Nathan Aspinall and Luke Humphreys. It seemed a bit edgy with the early sort of exchanges, and then there was a phase where Nathan Aspinall just found that scoring power that we know he's got, which was able to carry him over the line in that semi. And he just averaged 113 over the weekend in the International Darts Open, so you knew that he was going to come in, and he had the form to back himself. And
yeah,
I feel like his ability did come towards the end of the match. And let's be right, if you need your best game to come at some point, you want it at the end of a game. And Luke Humphreys, I feel like obviously now he's got to a stage where he's got enough points to be able to think, well, I just need to be consistently getting a few wins a week. Don't need to be winning the whole night. And Nathan Aspinall, you could tell from watching that semi-final that he wanted that game more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just feel, as we said, we're now going into the tense area of the Premier League, which again kind of mimics the old style of the Premier League, where it got to the nitty-gritty. You had a few more tenser games, but you had dead rubbers. And I think with this format, it is taking out them dead rubbers because every game means something. That's why I think this format change, has been for the better, all in all.
It was a very important. The format change has been very good, and I think when it first started, there was the argument of you always having the same matches over and over again. But like I remember watching the match between Gerwyn Price and Michael Smith the week just gone in Rotterdam, and I remember thinking if Gerwyn Price had beat Michael Smith in that game, he's automatically like 6 points behind the playoffs, and with 4 weeks to go, 6 points doesn't actually seem that much of a margin.
No.
But Michael Smith's run to the final was beneficial for him because it's sort of taken Price away now, and it, as I said, it's now a 3-person race. It's a 3-player race for 2 playoff positions, and you look at that game and think, has Michael Smith now taken Gerwyn Price completely out of the playoff race?
Yeah, essentially, I think he has, all in all, and I think, as I said, it's a 3-horse race, but let's not discredit Rob Cross, Gerwyn Price, and Peter Wright, because as you say, especially in Aberdeen, or is it Edinburgh? Aberdeen?
It's Aberdeen.
Aberdeen. They really can play the role of spoiler for any contentions for them 3 players. So, write them off at your will. And I've paid consequences in the Predictor League on that. But, it, as I said, just makes it more interesting for the viewers, and it makes it more interesting for us.
As mentioned, Peter Wright's got to play someone in Aberdeen. I don't know who that is yet, but that's not going to be an easy game for whoever it is. Luke Humphries will have to face someone in Leeds, and that's not going to be easy for whoever it is. And then I remember Gerwyn Price won night in Sheffield a couple of years ago, so he's got experience of winning in that venue before. And I feel like Price is going to be that sort of player that's going to want to get a Premier League night win under his belt before his campaign finishes, whether he does qualify for the playoffs or not.
Yeah, I mean, just having a quick look ahead of, I've got it on here, where in Aberdeen, Peter Wright's playing Michael Smith, and Michael Van Gerwen's playing Rob Cross, Luke Little is playing Nathan Aspinall. So all them 3 games have got some real, real tense starts in there, I think. And then when you go to Leeds, you've got Luke Humphries taking on Rob Cross. So, and then Peter Wright is taking on Luke Littler in the opposite half of the draw. So the run-up is very similar to the Premier League football, where a lot of people are saying like Man City's run-up is easier than Arsenal's or whatever. And I think, but with this, it's not as easy to predict as we both very, very well know. I mean, I'm just speaking on behalf of myself at the moment, but it's very tough to predict because you've got that potential of, I'm not calling them upsets, but as you say, a game spoiled by one of the players in the bottom half.
I feel like this is hard to predict because this is the league. This is a league where anyone can beat anyone, and
yes,
we all like Peter Wright is the bottom player in the league, but if he plays to his top game, he can beat anyone in this league. That's how it works. And you mentioned all the games there: Peter Wright, Michael Smith in Glasgow. That's in Aberdeen, sorry, and that's going to be a huge match in relation to the playoffs because he's playing someone in the playoff race, and then you'll have Gerwyn Price playing other playoff contenders in the remaining 4 weeks. Rob Cross will be doing the same. The playoff contenders could be coming up against the players near the top of the league, and we'll wait and see what they're thinking in terms of what they need to be doing each week in terms of guaranteeing their spot in the playoffs themselves.
Absolutely. But that was the Premier League that was. So in the MODUS Super Series, it was Kieran Tehan who booked his place into Champions Week following the other 7 that have already previously qualified. And again, it was a really good week of good, solid darts.
Absolutely, another solid week from the MODUS Super Series. We saw numerous top performances. I remember watching on finals night yesterday. There was a game between it was John O'Shea, and he lost the match. Sorry, he won the match, but was knocked out, and he hit 104 average. So
Yeah,
just goes to show it was a case of the group had already been dealt with in terms of I think
it was a
everyone
dead
had won their
rubber.
matches. Yeah, and I think John O'Shea won his match 4-3. So I feel like it was legs difference that's just short. It's just been the undoing of him in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good, solid week. I mean, I was very impartial in who I was cheering on for. I mean, obviously, Harry Gregory, fellow Swinton Super League player, and known him for a good few years playing in the local leagues where I live. And you could see the talent that he had. It was obviously just taking his steps a little bit longer than perhaps, Luke Littler, which, obviously it's a different people have different progressions, but I like the progression that Harry is making. He's going in the right direction. His standard was phenomenal in parts of his 3-day campaign in Group A. And again, maybe that rest period for groups B and C just might have just undone him, because he might be one of them players that loves to just keep going on, keep going on, keep going on day after day after day, because he's definitely got the talent for it.
It was still a good week in terms of Harry Gregory's performance. Like finishing top of Group A was a very good achievement for him. Like that's going to
Massive.
give him so much confidence going into future events. And then watching him yesterday in the finals night, I think it was in the semi-finals. He did lose overall in that game, but there was a 140 checkout with 2 treble 18s and double 16. Like just to show that composure in a high pressure situation is really, really good. But going on to the winner, that was Kieran Tierney. He's now the 8th player that will feature in Champions Week. I think there was a game in his semi-final where he was 3-1 down and then reeled 3 legs on the spin to come back and reach the final. So the character that he showed to get to the final and then winning it as well after, very well done. And he has the experience of winning on the Super Series stage before. So he's going to be back and he's going to have the chance to fight for £20,000.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been one of them clutch dart players. When I've watched him on the Challenge Tour, whether it be when I've been there playing or watching just as a watcher, he just seems to have hit the right scores at the right times. He's very, of an Aspinall ilk, where he'll grind you down with his high scoring when it needs to be. But it's he's going to be a tough cookie for anyone to crack. Is Kieran at Champions Week, and again, we've got a very mixed field, and maybe not the field a lot of people were anticipating with the players that have played. As we said, Scott Taylor, Tom Sykes, etc. But again, it's going to be one of them weeks where you're going to go, it's going to be a really good week of darts in terms of the quality. And again, this is what the MODUS Super Series is all about. As I said a couple of weeks ago, it's the X factor of darts, in my opinion, now.
Absolutely. You've got to prove your worth in terms of qualifying for Champions League. You've got to be the best player on your week. And I think Kieran Tierney now becomes the second Irish international to qualify for Champions Week, along with Conor Heenahan, and then you've also got Neil Duff from Northern Ireland as well. So it's a case of a very mixed field, as you say, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens with Champions Week and who the remaining players from the remaining weeks are going to be.
Yeah, you've got a good mix of former Pro Tour card holders, young players, older players. It's really coming into its own, and again, really looking forward to Champions Week.
2 former WDF world champions as well, if we're including obviously Neil Duff, and then you've also got a WDF boys champion in Bradley Roos.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that was the week that was, but now we look ahead because it is the Premier League Predictor League. We've got 8 minutes.
I'm looking forward to seeing the results of this.
Oh, yeah. So, looking at last week, as we've both, as we was talking about earlier, it was Nathan Aspinall who got the weekly win. And how does that affect our table? Well, it's not looking good for me, let's be honest. there is now a 9-point difference with Harry on 75 and myself on 66. So I've really got to start thinking and see what's going to be happening. The Premier League bandwagon rolls into Liverpool at the Marks and Spencer's Bank Arena. And 4 games for our quarterfinals: Luke Littler versus Gerwyn Price, Luke Humphries versus Nathan Aspinall, Peter Wright versus MVG Michael Van Gerwen, Michael Smith versus Rob Cross. So first game, Luke Littler versus Gerwyn Price. Harry, who have you got and why?
I'm going to go with Price to win this first game. I feel like Luke Littler just seems to be going for a little bit of a rough patch at the minute, and Gerwyn Price is, as we're seeing with the performances he's producing week on week, it's looking really, really good. I could see this game going either way, but I'm going to go with it to be 6-5 to go with Price.
Yes. Now, do I go for the extra point? Well, we want to obviously try and go for the extra point in having the correct score, but the way the points are at the moment, I've got to be thinking kind of the opposite, but I've got to pick the games where I think it's going to be the opposite. And I think this one could be it. I mean, you surprised me with going with Gerwyn Price, but I can see why you've gone with Gerwyn Price. But I think this is the one where Luke Littler dusts himself off and goes on an absolute charge, and first victim is Gerwyn Price. And I'm going 6-5.
The same score, different way.
Yes, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
So then moving on to game 2, you've got Luke Humphries, top of the table, versus last week's winner, Nathan Aspinall. And again, this is, as I said last week, harder to pick than a broken nose. I think that's going to be my new phrase for this week. Looking at it, they're both in form, they're both playing well, and it could be that it just goes with throw. Now, looking at this, I think it's Luke Humphries who has the darts because they play each other twice and it's the opposite fixture. So with that in mind, I'm going to say Luke Humphries takes three legs on the spin and Nathan can't catch. And I think it's going to be 6-4 Luke Humphries.
Well, we're going different winners in the first 2 games. I'm going to go Nathan Aspinall to win this match. I feel like he needs to continue this winning run as much as possible in terms of who wants to guarantee his spot in the playoffs. I just feel that this year with Nathan Aspinall, he missed out on the playoffs last year in a very close race with Johnny Clayton, and I feel this time around he's not going to want to make the same mistakes, and getting as many points as you can on each Premier League night is going to be very crucial to him. And I think he pips this 6-5.
6-5. Interesting. That takes us on to game 3, which is Peter Wright versus Michael Van Gerwen. Harry, who have you got?
I'm going to go with Michael Van Gerwen to win this. I feel like he needs to. He's another player now that's in a race for the playoffs, and he's going to need to get as many points as possible. And the fact that he lost last week against Luke Humphries, he's going to want to bounce back this week and get another 2 points under his belt. And Peter Wright, I just feel that this is the perfect opportunity for him to do that. And I'm going to go with Michael Van Gerwen to win this 6-4.
6-4 for yourself. Now, I agree with the result. I mean, the way Peter Wright played last week, he was not up to his normal standard. Let's just say that, then keep it short and sweet. But I think, Michael Van Gerwen's game is on the up. I mean, it's not like he's playing bad. But for me, I think he's going to win, and he's going to try and win in as much style as possible. I think 6-3. Which moves us on to our last game of the quarterfinals, which is Michael Smith versus Rob Cross. Now, looking at the stats, I think Michael Smith's going to have the edge. I don't know how much of an edge. That's why I'm going to go with 6-5 to Michael Smith.
I'm also going to go Michael Smith to win. I feel that Smith is all 3 playoff players are going to win this week from what we're predicting.
Absolutely.
So it should just make it should be a very entertaining semi-final if it does happen to be Michael Smith and Michael Van Gerwen. And anyway, looking back into this quarterfinal, I feel that Michael Smith's game at the minute, it's looking really good. Like the game against Luke Littler last week, he produced very, very good darts, and it's important that he does continue to play well week on week, because he is the one that's playing catch up at the minute. He's actually the one that's not in the playoffs as things stand, and he more than anyone needs the points. So I'm going to go with Michael Smith to win this, and I'm going to go with him to win 6-3.
So that just leaves us to our weekly winner, and with the way the brackets are, it's a very tough one to call. Again, we say that every week, but looking at the brackets, I just think Michael van Gerwen's gonna take over Liverpool.
He did win there last year.
Yes,
he did win there last year, so I can completely see that. And this is a big pressure situation for Van Gerwen, so he needs to produce, and if he does win the night, that's definitely producing.
So who are you going for the win?
I'm going to go Michael Smith to win.
Interesting.
In Liverpool. I from looking at that semi-final, if it does happen between Michael Smith and Van Gerwen, I think Smith might edge this one, and then it'll come to the final where he'll face, if it goes with our predictions, if it goes with your predictions, it'll be Luke Littler versus.
Not necessarily. I think it could. Well, it's got to be a Luke versus Michael van Gerwen. I just don't know which Luke it's going to be. But
yeah,
I think it's going to be definitely worth a Luke in Liverpool.
No, I feel so. You've got it to be a repeat of the world final in the semi, and I've got it to be Aspinall Price in the semi. So
yes,
I just think Michael Smith needs to pick up a win at some point, because you've got Michael van Gerwen that's got 4 night wins. You've got Michael, and you've got Nathan Aspinall that's now got 2, and Smith's only got the 1, but I feel that he makes it 2 in Liverpool, and he makes this playoff race even more interesting.
Yes, so a fantastic night at darts ahead in Liverpool.